The goal of this work is to produce a temporally consistent surface reconstruction in a completely unsupervised manner. The colored squares on the reconstruction visualize our method's inferred correspondence between different frames in the sequence. Note how a semantically meaningful region, such as the rear left leg of the cat, remains in correspondence across the sequence. Given as input a sequence of point clouds representing a shape moving over time, we aim to reconstruct one surface from each point cloud to get a sequence of surfaces. Besides yielding precise geometric reconstruction, our reconstruction is temporally consistent, meaning that the surfaces have a meaningful correspondence between them, with semantically corresponding points matching each other across the surfaces. Our method is completely unsupervised and does not use any training data with non-correspondences, nor assumes any prior regarding the shape to reconstruct. We found that the temporal consistency leads both to better correspondences as well as purely better reconstructions. Our method leverages the standard atlas architecture, which represents a reconstructed 3D surface through an atlas, a mapping from 2D to 3D. Specifically, an input point cloud is first encoded using a PointNet encoder to produce a latent code. Then, 2D points are sampled from a square in UV space and passed together with the latent code through the decoder, mapping to a point on the 3D surface. We use the AtlasNet framework to define correspondences between the surfaces and require that each point in UV space is mapped to semantically consistent locations in the reconstruction. We achieve that in an unsupervised manner by requiring that the surface deforms close to isometrically during the sequence. For this purpose, we use the Riemannian metric on the atlas. Intuitively, the metric measures a distortion of the mapping from 2D domain to 3D space. However, unlike previous methods, we do not aim to minimize the distortion from 2D to 3D. Instead, we measure distortion over time, requiring that the change in the metric between a pair of shapes to be minimal, thus yielding metric consistency and isometry. To this end, we formulate a novel metric consistency loss term. While efficient for globally aligned sequence, the loss term does not suffice when the object undergoes a substantial global rotation, as the patches tend to creep across the surface as it rotates. To prevent this phenomenon, we further introduce a novel augmentation scheme which exposes the model to randomly rotated and translated versions of the observations. First, the model produces a reconstruction of an observed data sample and associates each predicted point with its closest neighbor in the input point cloud. Then, the input point cloud is randomly rotated and translated. Each such new data sample is reconstructed by the model again by using the same set of points sampled from the 2D domain. Finally, an additional loss term requires that each predicted point is close to the rotated and translated input point which it was originally associated to. To summarize, given a sequence, our final loss is comprised of three terms. First, for each individual point cloud, we make the reconstruction fit to the input by minimizing the chamfer distance. Second, we enforce time-consistent reconstruction with meaningful correspondences by minimizing metric consistency loss term between pairs of reconstructions. And third, we force the model to recover correspondences between rigidly transformed versions of the input point cloud. If the samples are drawn randomly from the whole sequence during the optimization, the consecutive iterations may feature samples whose global orientation is very different, but nevertheless look similar because of the inherent object symmetries, such as the left and right side of the animal. To prevent the model from finding wrong correspondences, we rely on a progressive sequence sampling. The optimization starts with a small subset of consecutive samples to bootstrap the model. The subset is gradually grown until the whole sequence is considered for sampling. Furthermore, we found that our method benefits from sampling pairs of shapes which are close in time, rather than sampling random pairs from within the current subset. Please refer to the text of the paper for more details. We have compared our approach to several state-of-the-art methods for surface reconstruction and for correspondence estimation. AtlasNet and differential surface reconstruction also follow the atlas-based approach, while cycle-consistent deformation is based on consistently deforming one point cloud to another. Note, CycleCon does not produce a surface reconstruction, and hence we don't show it. We show the results in terms of reconstructions using the same texture for all the methods and in terms of the correspondence on the ground truth mesh, where the error is visualized with red color. The visual tracking of a given colored square over the sequence reveals how temporally coherent a given method is. For instance, Note how the reconstructed surface flickers when AtlasNet is used, in contrast to our method. Furthermore, note how our method exhibits almost no red color in comparison to AtlasNet. Our metric consistency term not only yields temporally consistent correspondences, but also leads to better surface reconstruction compared to the competing surface reconstruction methods. Note the erroneous surfaces linking the canvas legs as produced by AtlasNet and DSR. CycleCon then completely swaps the legs. In the case of a horse which gradually changes the direction of its gallop, the AtlasNet and DSR failed to maintain semantically correct correspondences due to the object symmetries. CycleCon, again, swaps the horse's legs. In this challenging sequence, focus on the right leg of the human and note the strong surface distortion produced by AtlasNet and the incoherent flickering of DSR. The handstand sequence features a person undergoing a combination of a non-rigid deformation and severe global rotation. AtlasNet, DSR, and CycleCon lose track of the fast-moving surface. Our method maintains semantically meaningful correspondences throughout the sequence thanks to the combination of the two novel loss terms and the progressive sequence sampling strategy. This sequence contains noise due to wrong topology of the triangle soups from which the input point clouds were sampled. Notice how the competing methods get confused by the rotation of the human torso. This is yet another sequence with strong topological noise. Since the dataset does not include dense ground truth correspondences, we show only the reconstructions and the input point cloud. Notice that our method correctly distinguishes the individual human legs, even if they appear joined in the input point cloud for the most of the sequence. The input point clouds of this sequence contain severe spatial noise, making the human body parts hard to distinguish, as can be seen from the erroneous reconstructions produced by AtlasNet and DSR. Our method momentarily wrongly swaps the legs when the person lunges forward, but otherwise maintains meaningful reconstructions and stable correspondences throughout the sequence. We finish with a severe stress test of the methods, a deflating rubber horse. The multiple foldovers of the ground truth surface are very challenging. Nonetheless, our method correctly reconstructs the deflating surface, in contrast to the artifact-laden reconstructions of AtlasNet and DSR. Thank you for watching.